My child, stop scrolling for just a moment, because something has been waiting to reach you, and the timing of this message is not as ordinary as it may seem. You could have passed by. You could have looked away. You could have told yourself that this was only another voice among thousands. Yet something within you paused before your mind could explain why. That quiet pull was not meant to frighten you. It was meant to prepare you, because the person your heart has carried through silence, distance, confusion, and unanswered questions has been holding back an important message, and the truth behind it is deeper than the words they are trying to say. Do not rush away now. Stay here, because what begins as a message from their heart will soon reveal something about your own journey that you have not fully understood. There has been a change taking place where you cannot see it. A conversation has been happening in the hidden chambers of their soul. They have been remembering moments that you assumed they had forgotten. They have been replaying words you spoke casually, expressions you made without realizing anyone noticed, and the exact way your presence made them feel when they were trying hardest not to feel anything at all. Something has awakened inside them, and they can no longer pretend that your connection was meaningless. For a long time, this person believed silence would protect them. They thought distance would make the feelings smaller. They imagined that if enough days passed, your memory would become quieter and the questions inside them would disappear. But the opposite happened. The silence did not erase you. It magnified everything they refused to face. Every unanswered thought became louder. Every hidden emotion became heavier. Every attempt to move forward brought them back to the same place. The place where your name still carried a feeling they could not replace. There is a reason this message is reaching you now. Your soulmate has recently come to a realization that changed the way they see your entire connection. It did not arrive dramatically. There was no thunder in the sky, no public announcement, no sudden scene that everyone could witness. It came during a quiet moment when they were alone with their thoughts. Perhaps the room was still. Perhaps the world around them had finally grown silent. And in that stillness, they understood something they had avoided for far too long: losing communication with you did not bring them peace. It showed them how much peace your presence had once given them. Pause here and let that settle in your heart. The message they are carrying is not simply, "I miss you." Those words would be too small for what has been growing inside them. They miss the way you made ordinary moments feel significant. They miss the safety they felt when you understood what they could not explain. They miss the version of themselves that appeared when they were near you, the version that felt softer, braver, and more honest. But even this is not the complete revelation. Something greater is waiting beneath the surface, something they are almost afraid to admit, because once it is spoken, nothing between you can return to the way it was before. You may have questioned whether they ever truly saw your worth. There were moments when their actions seemed uncertain, their words seemed incomplete, and their silence made you feel invisible. You wondered whether your love had been one-sided, whether you had imagined the depth of the connection, or whether your heart had given meaning to something that was never real. But heaven has watched what you could not see. It has witnessed the moments when your soulmate searched for pieces of you in strangers, songs, places, and memories. It has seen them compare every new connection to the feeling they once had with you. And each time, something was missing. That missing piece was not perfection. It was recognition. Your soul recognized theirs in a way that challenged them. You saw behind the mask they had carefully built. You noticed their hesitation before they spoke. You sensed their sadness even when they smiled. You understood their need for reassurance even when they acted as though they needed no one. Being seen that deeply can feel like a blessing, but to someone who has spent years hiding, it can also feel overwhelming. They did not pull away because you meant nothing. Part of them pulled away because you meant too much. Stay until the end of this message, because the next truth may explain a chapter that has confused you for longer than you admit. Your soulmate has been carrying regret, not only for what they did, but for what they failed to do. They regret the moment they could have spoken honestly but chose silence. They regret allowing pride, fear, timing, or outside opinions to interrupt something that felt sacred. They regret leaving you to interpret their absence without giving you the truth. Most of all, they regret making you question your value when the real struggle was never about your worth. It was about their readiness. There is a difference between loving someone and being prepared to receive the kind of love they offer. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that difference now. At the time, they may have mistaken emotional intensity for danger. They may have believed that surrendering to the connection meant losing control. They may have feared that if they opened their heart completely, you would eventually discover every wound, every insecurity, and every hidden part of them they had worked so hard to conceal. So they created distance, not realizing that distance would become the very thing that forced them to face themselves. While you were trying to heal from their silence, they were trying to understand why your absence affected them so deeply. You may have imagined them living without a care, forgetting you easily, or moving through life untouched by what happened. But appearances rarely reveal the full story. There were nights when they almost reached out. There were moments when they typed words and erased them. There were occasions when they saw something that reminded them of you and felt their entire emotional world shift. Yet they hesitated, because they did not know whether they still had the right to enter your space. This is where the message becomes more personal. They know you have changed. They can feel it even from a distance. Your energy is no longer standing still, waiting for someone else to decide your future. You have been growing through disappointment. You have been learning to protect your peace without closing your heart. You have been discovering that love should not require you to abandon your dignity. And this transformation has not gone unnoticed. Your soulmate senses that the version of you they once knew is becoming stronger, clearer, and less willing to accept uncertainty. That realization has created urgency within them. Not the kind of urgency that should make you fearful, but the kind that appears when a person recognizes that time cannot be treated carelessly forever. They understand that your heart is not a door they can assume will remain open without effort. They know that your patience has limits. They know you may be approaching a new chapter in which their silence will no longer have power over you. And somewhere deep within them, a question has begun to echo. What if I wait too long and lose the chance to tell the truth? Do not skip this part, because their important message is connected to a decision they have been considering quietly. They are not only thinking about confessing how they feel. They are thinking about changing how they show up. Words alone would not be enough, and they know it. They have begun to understand that love must become visible through consistency, courage, and responsibility. They cannot simply return with beautiful promises and expect your heart to forget every season of uncertainty. If they come forward, they must come with honesty. They must acknowledge what happened. They must be willing to listen to your pain without defending themselves. This is why the message has taken so long. They have been searching for the right words, but the truth is too large to fit into one perfect sentence. How do they explain that they cared even when they acted distant? How do they admit that fear controlled choices they now regret? How do they tell you that losing access to your presence taught them what your presence truly meant? How do they ask for understanding without demanding forgiveness? These questions have kept them awake in ways you may never have known. Yet there is another layer to this story, and it is one they have only recently discovered. Your soulmate once believed that the connection was primarily about romance, attraction, longing, and emotional closeness. Now they are beginning to see that it was also a mirror. You entered their life and reflected back the parts of themselves they needed to heal. Your kindness revealed where they had become guarded. Your honesty exposed where they had been hiding. Your patience showed them how often they expected abandonment. Your strength reminded them of the courage they had postponed. This is why your connection felt intense even during quiet moments. It was not only two people meeting. It was two inner worlds awakening. You stirred memories in each other that had nothing to do with specific events and everything to do with recognition. There were times when a simple glance felt like a full conversation. There were moments when silence between you carried more meaning than words. There were emotional shifts that neither of you could explain logically. And although the path became complicated, the impact remained. But listen carefully, beloved child, this message is not asking you to chase anyone. It is not asking you to put your life on hold. Heaven does not reveal someone's feelings so that you will surrender your wisdom. This revelation is coming to remind you that what you sensed was not foolish, but your next steps must still be guided by peace, self-respect, and discernment. Their feelings may be real, but feelings must be supported by action. Their regret may be sincere, but sincerity must become responsibility. Their message may touch your heart, but your heart is allowed to require clarity. There is something extraordinary waiting near the end of this revelation, and it concerns the exact truth they have been afraid to say. Before that truth can be revealed, you must understand what has been happening within you. You have been moving through a season of emotional purification. Old expectations have been falling away. Patterns that once kept you attached to uncertainty are losing their hold. You are learning that your worth does not increase when someone chooses you, and it does not decrease when someone hesitates. This lesson has been painful, but it has also been preparing you. Your soulmate has sensed this preparation. They may not describe it in spiritual language, but they feel the difference. They know something is changing around you. They feel as though the distance between you is no longer empty, it is becoming a crossroads. One path allows the connection to remain a memory. Not merely if you became busy or stopped contacting them, but if your heart finally released the expectation that they would return. That thought affected them more deeply than they expected. They pictured you laughing with someone who values your presence. They imagined another person hearing the stories they never took time to hear. They imagined someone else offering you the consistency they struggled to give. And for the first time, the possibility did not feel distant. It felt real. This moment broke through something inside them. It was not jealousy alone. It was recognition. They realized they had been treating your love like a permanent light in the background, something they could return to after they had solved everything else. But love is not an object placed on a shelf. It is alive. It grows when cared for and changes when neglected. They suddenly understood that while they had been postponing honesty, you had been evolving. And the person you are becoming may not accept the same uncertainty that the person you once were endured. That is why their message contains an apology, although they may not begin with the word sorry. They may first tell you that they have been thinking about you. They may ask how you have been. They may speak cautiously, testing whether the emotional door is still open. But beneath every simple sentence will be a deeper confession. I know I left you alone with questions I should have answered. I know my silence spoke in ways I never intended. I know I made you feel less important than you truly were. The message also contains gratitude. They want you to know that your presence changed them, even if they failed to show it at the time. Something you said stayed with them. Perhaps you encouraged them when they had lost confidence. Perhaps you believed in a dream they were afraid to pursue. Perhaps you offered gentleness during a season when they expected judgment. They remember more than you realize. The smallest act of compassion can become a lifelong memory when it reaches someone at the exact moment they need it. You were a light in a part of their life they kept hidden from others. They may have had people around them, conversations, obligations, and distractions, but very few individuals touched the quiet center of who they were. You did. And because you did, forgetting you was never as simple as changing routines. Your energy became connected to a feeling of emotional truth. When they thought of you, they thought of who they might become if they stopped running from themselves. There is still more. Your soulmate has been asking themselves whether they deserve another opportunity to speak. This question has created a battle between hope and shame. Hope tells them that genuine connections can survive honest conversations. Shame tells them they have already caused too much confusion. Hope reminds them of the moments when your bond felt undeniable. Shame reminds them of every moment they chose fear. They move back and forth between these voices, and that inner conflict is part of why you may have felt their energy drawing near and then pulling away again. But a new voice has begun to rise within them, a voice of courage. It is telling them that avoiding the conversation will not undo the past. It is telling them that you deserve the truth, even if the truth does not produce the outcome they hope for. It is telling them that love must sometimes speak without controlling the response. They are beginning to understand that their role is not to force your heart open. Their role is to approach with honesty and allow you to decide what peace requires. My beloved child, something huge is waiting for you in this message, but it may not be what you first imagined. The greatest revelation is not simply that someone misses you. It is that your absence has forced them to recognize the depth of what they felt while you were present. They once thought the intensity would fade. Instead, it matured into understanding. They once thought they needed distance from the connection. Instead, the distance revealed the connection's value. They once thought silence would give them control. Instead, silence showed them what they were afraid to lose. And now they want to tell you something that has been forming in their heart for a long time. They did not walk away because they felt nothing. They walked away because they felt more than they knew how to carry. This does not excuse the pain. It does not erase the unanswered questions. But it changes the meaning behind many moments you misunderstood. Their coldness was not always absence of emotion. Sometimes it was emotion without maturity. Their hesitation was not always rejection. Sometimes it was fear without language. Their silence was not always peace. Often, it was an internal storm they did not know how to reveal. Still, do not let this truth tempt you to romanticize inconsistency. A person's hidden feelings cannot become your permanent responsibility. You are not required to wait endlessly for someone to become ready. The purpose of this revelation is not to return you to old patterns. It is to help you see clearly. You can acknowledge that the bond was real while also honoring what it cost you. You can believe they cared while admitting that their actions failed to provide safety. You can hold compassion without abandoning boundaries. This balance is the doorway to what comes next. The message they want to deliver is approaching, but heaven is first strengthening your heart so you will hear it from a place of wisdom rather than desperation. You are not the same person who once searched every silence for proof of love. You are becoming someone who listens for truth, watches for consistency, and allows peace to have the final word. That version of you will not be easily manipulated by urgency or promises. That version of you knows that real love does not demand immediate surrender. Your soulmate knows this too. They sense that they must approach differently. They cannot rely on old charm, vague statements, or emotional intensity. They are preparing to reveal a detail they have never told you before, something connected to a moment from your shared past. This detail may explain why their behavior changed so suddenly, why they seemed close one moment and distant the next, and why certain words were left unfinished. They have carried this secret quietly because admitting it would expose a vulnerability they have hidden from almost everyone. The secret began during a moment you may remember differently. Perhaps it appeared ordinary to you. Perhaps it was a conversation, a goodbye, a look, or a quiet pause. But for them, something happened internally. They saw a future for one brief moment, not a perfect fantasy, but a genuine possibility. They imagined you beside them in a way that felt natural and terrifying at once. That vision awakened hope, but it also awakened every fear they had about commitment, loss, inadequacy, and being truly known. They did not know how to tell you that the connection had become real in their mind. So instead of moving closer, they stepped back. They tried to regain control by reducing contact, changing the subject, becoming unpredictable, or pretending the moment meant less than it did. You interpreted this shift as a sign that you had done something wrong. You searched through your words and wondered where you had failed. But their retreat was not triggered by a flaw in you. It was triggered by a future they suddenly wanted and did not feel ready to hold. Do not leave now, because the next part of their message changes everything. They are no longer only reflecting on what went wrong. They have begun imagining how they would repair it. They have rehearsed the conversation in their mind. They have pictured your reaction. They have considered the possibility that you may not welcome them as warmly as they hope. They know you may ask difficult questions. They know you may need time. And for the first time, they are not looking for an easy path. They are thinking about how to remain present even when the conversation becomes uncomfortable. This shift matters. Before, they wanted connection without vulnerability. They wanted your warmth without exposing their fear. They wanted reassurance without admitting how deeply they needed it. Now they are beginning to understand that intimacy cannot grow where honesty is withheld. To come toward you, they must remove the mask. They must tell you what they felt, what frightened them, what they regret, and what they are prepared to change. Yet there is one obstacle still standing between intention and action. Someone or something from their past has influenced the way they view love. A previous disappointment taught them to expect closeness to end in loss. A betrayal may have trained them to doubt sincerity. A family pattern may have shown them that emotions should be hidden rather than expressed. This old wound did not begin with you, but it entered the space between you. You were receiving the consequences of a story you did not create. They are finally recognizing this. They see how unfair it was to make you pay for pain caused by someone else. They see that you were trying to love the present version of them while they were reacting to ghosts from the past. This realization has humbled them. It has forced them to separate your intentions from their fears. And the more clearly they see you, the more deeply they understand what they risked losing.